So I hope everyone's doing okay. We're in our second of 3 weeks between Thanksgiving break and Christmas break or holiday break. So it's going to go fast. And then we come back, there's less than 2 weeks, and then we're all done, period. So it's going to go really fast. Okay. It's real informal today. So if you have a question or problem or something you want to bring up or comment or whatever, just unmute yourself. You can put it in the chat. I don't always look at that the whole time, but you can put it there too. I just may be a little slower to get to it there. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share a screen and start telling you what's going on this week. Okay, so this week here, believe it or not, we're already in week 14. This class started a week or so late. My other classes are in week 15. And first, I'll jump to the end of the week. We have the chapter 7 and 8 test. And just like our other tests, you can use your notes, and I'll post the link by 9 a.m. on Friday morning and take it sometime that day before midnight. If there's some problem with taking it that day, make sure you contact me and let me know, and we'll talk about it. Okay, so we got that coming up. Connected to that is right before this here, not due till Thursday, is a group of videos that go with let's see here. We got deviance, a crash course. We got theory, deviance, crash course, social gratification, global stratification. These are all crash course courses. And I might say, Mr. Rio, why do you use so many of those? Be honest with you, they cover the kind of material that's in a textbook, the basics and the, stuff that would be covered in there. They do it kind of fast and short and get right to the point, so you can learn a lot in a relatively short video. And I've looked at way worse. Okay, I've looked at a bunch of them that are just like a professor standing in front of a PowerPoint, and you definitely don't want to watch those to learn about these topics. So these are actually quite good videos to cover the basics. So they average around 9 minutes each. So, they're quite good. I got an email. Maybe I forgot to put a video up here by the next ones. Deviance and social control. Probably would help if I put the video there, wouldn't it? Let me go find that. Okay, just take me just a moment here. And someone emailed me saying, Mr. Rio, you don't have the video up there. I must have forgot to copy and paste it in. So I'm going to do that really quick right now. You can't see what I'm doing here, but what I do have here is an old sociology class where I'm not using all the same things, but I use some of them. And I know the video that I want. There it is right there. And I will copy it. And then we'll go here. And I will edit this. And this will probably help. Okay, so if anybody's wondering where that is, there. That's much, much better. Okay, this is a just one video. It's 28 minutes long, but it's pretty interesting. And it's all about deviance and social control. So like I said, deviance can be good or bad. There's bad deviance like criminal behavior and activities and so forth, things that are negative, things that are harmful to people. And there's good deviance. There's deviance where people do things that, good examples would be like the anti-slavery movement back in the 1800s. Technically, that was deviant because it was against the laws and the norms of the time. And people were like, hey, oh, no, these are radicals. These deviants want to get rid of slavery. Now in history, we look at everything as the opposite. We look at the people that engaged in it as the bad people, and the good ones were the ones that were opposed to it. Same with the civil rights movement, same with all kinds of movements around the world. As we speak right now, people are being arrested in Egypt and Russia and China and everything just for speaking out for freedom and human rights and, things that we would consider to be good. But they're being deviant because they're speaking out against things that are against the law in some of those places, where the laws are, many people's views, wrong. Okay, so we got, and social control, there's always different types of social controls. We have social controls right here at Harbor Creek High School. What are they? Well, when you're actually at the high school and you are in class and we have a normal school day, we have strict rules about your devices, mainly your phones. And that's because we've had problems with that. So we don't want you to be on them during class time unless there's some special permission. So we have rules like that. We have a lot of rules in school. We want people to, to have a dress code, to behave a certain way, not to get in fights and things like that. So we have various types of rules. Now, some things are informal and some things are formal. Formal would be a rule where maybe you get in trouble, or if you break the law, and Officer Mackey has to come arrest you, which has happened with students in the past, believe it or not. We have informal controls, and informal control would be, something that maybe you're not going to get in trouble for as far as a law or a rule, but people are going to really look down upon. They're going to frown upon. So, there's various types of behaviors. That like if someone does something nice for you, to say thank you. You don't have to say thank you, but there's probably a certain amount of social expectation to do that. And then of course that's teen peer pressure, can affect people as to one way or the other. It can affect them into deviance. It could affect them into behaving a certain way because they don't want to offend people, and that could be, again, a good thing or a bad thing. So this goes into a whole bunch of examples and experts talking about deviance and social control. I think it's a pretty interesting video. So that's going to be coming up, and that's due on the Wednesday. So you want to get started on that here pretty quick. Okay, and then what else do we got going on this week? Okay, now we cover so many problems and so many sad things, and talk about prisons, and we talk about poverty, and we talk about all kind of things that are often sad and troubled. But there's some good news out there. Actually, there's a lot of good news out there. If you look around, there's always good news out there. There's always people doing good things, people helping other people, people solving problems or at least making progress on problems. So I decided this would be a good time to have some good news about some of this stuff. And then also it's tied into the holiday season, which I was watching some stuff about some music videos that came out in the 80s that came out around this time of the year that were connected to helping fight famine. So this is kind of a little bit of a unique assignment, but let me tell you the background here. There's 3 videos here. The first one's a music video from 1984 where there was a starvation going on in Ethiopia, and which is a country in Africa, not far from Egypt. And it was caused by drought and stuff. It's where they have famine because of the weather and things like that. So a bunch of British, musicians, famous artists at the time, got together and did a charity song called "Do They Know It's Christmas?" And they called themselves Band Aid, and that was a program that was started. Actually, it was connected to Live Aid that came out. You probably heard of from the Queen concert and stuff that followed up the following year. So what they did was they recorded this song for charity and all the money, and they did other awareness for poverty. So you get to watch that song. That's one thing you get to comment on a little bit in the assignment. It's only 4 minutes. One of the singers then, an up-and-coming rock star named Bono, the lead singer of U2, his real name is Paul Hewson, but everyone calls him Bono. He's very young in there. Well, then cut to the right here, and there's a TED Talk, and it's 29 years later, and it's Bono. And Bono's been involved not just back in 1984, but ever since, in anti-poverty and charities and good causes all over the world. At the same time, the band U2 and Bono, being the lead singer, became superstars. And they're one of the biggest bands in the world, still are. They tour and fill stadiums. And in 2013, he did a TED Talk. And his TED Talk wasn't him being the rock star. His TED Talk was him being as he called it, the nerd who's into facts about data and things like that, about stuff like poverty. So he shares good news about a lot of progress that has been made around the world, bringing millions and millions of people out of poverty. And he talks about that. So that's going to be the main part of that assignment. And then I thought, as long as we were doing that, let's just throw in what happened also back in around this same time And that was a group of American artists led by Michael Jackson, who at the time was the biggest star in the world, probably, and a singer, Lionel Richie. And they wrote a song called We Are the World. And they rounded up a whole bunch of American top artists at the time, musical artists, and recorded a video, and that's on there too. And they called themselves USA for Africa. So their proceeds also went to help the Ethiopian famine. It came out a month or two after the British one came out. They recorded, I think, in January '85, so it'd been like a month or two later. And that became a big song, and help raise money and stuff too. So they all connect together, connects to the holiday season a little bit because that was the time of year this happened. And then Bono is connected both to this video, and here he is 29 years later talking about famine and poverty, extreme poverty and stuff, except now he's got some good news to report. Which brings us to, from a sociological point of view, how has this happened? How have we brought millions and millions of people out of poverty? That, of course, is something you could study. You could read books on. You could hear 50 people talking about it. It's not one thing. It's lots of little things. There are some big things like, you know, countries giving assistance and charity organizations giving assistance, people who live in these poor countries, doing things and solving problems. And one of the biggest problems in everywhere, especially in poor countries, is corruption. A lot of money, a lot of aid, a lot of wealth gets stolen, basically. And part of these changes have involved anti-corruption. And part of it's technology. Technology has allowed people in remote parts of the world that never had a wired telephone like we had years ago for decades, suddenly went from nothing like that to wireless and having internet, which, believe it or not, they have in more places than you probably would think, because even a really poor country can put up a bunch of towers and have internet without too much difficulty, and smartphones and cell phones and things. Now, they may not have the latest and greatest, and they may not have what we have, but more and more people around the world are trying to get phones and trying to get internet and learning things and communicating and sharing information. And then there's charity groups, and there's countries involved, and there's people involved, and there's so the good news is a lot of progress has been made. In countries like China that have 1.4 billion people, they used to just be pretty much all poor. And they pretty much abandoned what was, they officially call themselves communist, which didn't work. But then they took up capitalism, but they don't still call themselves communists. It's pretty weird, but they claim to be communists, but they're very much about business and money and trade and capitalism. And that has worked for them. Switching from communism to capitalism, they've gotten a lot wealthier. Capitalism, about everywhere where it exists, is usually much, much better than communism or hardcore socialism. But on the other side of the argument, for those that think it just capitalism is the cure for everything, is you also need checks and balances. You need checks and balances about, trying to not necessarily redistribute all the wealth, but at least try to have some balance so people can benefit from it, and it doesn't get too much accumulated by too few people. And you know, there's people debate what that should be, but the countries that do the best overall are both capitalist and have a lot of programs to help make things better, like healthcare. We're the only advanced country in the world that does not have universal healthcare. Everybody I know from Canada, West Europe, Japan, Korea, everybody's got healthcare, and it's affordable. So here, that's one of the challenges that we have. So that's all this here, and some good news there for a change. So we got these videos here. These ones that go right with 7 and 8, and then on Friday you'll do the 7 and 8 test. So not too bad of a week. And then we're going to be starting another combination, 2 chapters in one. And that's all we got left, is that and some other miscellaneous videos and assignments. So it's going to go fast. Just real quick here, going back. I've been updating grades a lot, so make sure you get everything in. If you got any old work stuff that you guys submit, make sure you email me or text me after you submit if it's more than like a week and a half or 2 weeks old, so I make sure that I can give you credit for it. Back to our original notes here. Okay, I'm just going to talk real briefly about from Chapter 8, social stratification. Pretty much, stratification, think of it as like levels. You got, say, we would take everybody in the United States and break them into 5 groups, and we'll do it based on economics. So there's a 20% richest, there's a 20% poorest, then, of course, there's the second 20% richest and the second 20% up from the bottom, and then 20% right in the middle. And that would be one way of stratification. Now, around the world, there's all kinds of different. If you may have heard, like in England, they have the royal family, and I'm not sure how it works, but over the centuries, we're talking centuries here, they've had lords and ladies and barons and kings and all different levels. And at the bottom, there were various types of what they call serfs or whatever you call it, the common people that often didn't have much. And there's stratification all over the world, every society, everywhere. Even in a small community, there's stratification. There's people with more power, more influence, maybe more respected. Um, Now, stratification isn't always about wealth. I know they did some research of occupations, and it was like what occupations are most respected. And yeah, a lot of them that are highly respected also are among the wealthiest, such as doctors. But 2 groups that are not among the wealthiest at all, and maybe are below average in many ways, that were still highly respected, was teachers and clergy. Okay, so clergy would be people in religious groups and leaders, and teachers in general are 2 groups that, generally speaking, got a fair amount of respect. Now, I'm not saying everyone respects them the same, or every teacher, every clergy gets the same respect, but generally speaking, they do. You probably feel like it as a teenager that you're not real high in the stratification level as far as the big picture. We're talking with adults and parents and everybody. Now, among just high schoolers, then that's a whole different stratification. Okay. Within the high school, the stereotypes, if you ever see the movie The Breakfast Club, and by the way, that's a movie I normally would show in this class and we do an assignment with, except we're not in person and I can't really show it at your houses. So I encourage people to watch it. But in the movie The Breakfast Club, if you haven't seen it or have seen it, they have 5 high school students who have to do a Saturday detention together for the whole day. And when they come together, they kind of come from 5 stereotypical groups. So there's a girl who's like the popular type girl, comes from a well-off family, probably into a lot of shopping, maybe not the most academic, but still quite popular and well-liked and attractive and that. So she's probably be considered among the top of the stratification for that school. Then there's a guy who's a good athlete and maybe he's going to get a scholarship for college. And he's also nice looking and outgoing and probably quite popular. And he probably would be also considered among the top of the stratification for the high school. Then there is a girl that, for lack of a better word, is the weird girl. She dresses strange. She acts strange. She's kind of to herself. She doesn't seem to have hardly any friends or maybe no friends. She dresses kind of weird. She doesn't talk a whole lot. So she probably would not be viewed as one of the higher in the stratification. Matter of fact, she might be considered among the lower in the stratification. Then there's a guy who is been in trouble a lot, probably doesn't do very well in school, kind of an outsider, deviant, might engage in drugs and other activities that may be illegal. Um, Kind of views himself as, like he really don't really like most of the people at the high school. And he probably in one way views himself as is not in the very high in stratification for the school in general, but probably among his peers, the people he hangs out with, he probably would view himself as being among the top for that group. Then in the kind of the middle there was the 5th student in Breakfast Club is someone who's very smart, very, for lack of a better word, nerdy, geeky, very focused on school, a lot of parental pressure, to do really well in school. He's in the math club and the physics club and all those kind of things. And probably in his mind, you know, among his friends, he probably feels he's doing quite good stratification wise. But in the grand scheme of the school, despite his academic success and things like that, he's probably not considered among the more, at least on the popularity level, among the more popular in the school. Probably seen a little bit in the middle or average, maybe below average. We're talking popularity here. We're not talking, are they a better person or anything like that? No, it's not like that at all. It's just different types of stratification. Okay. And then kind of using another high school example for stratification would be sports. And right or wrong, the two that are always clearly at the top is boys football and boys basketball. And that's generally true in most high schools in the United States. Those two sports are going to get most of the attention and right or wrong, most of the prestige. So for stratification, they'd be at the top. Now, of course, some people might say, what about, you know, one year we had a really great volleyball team and they won the state championship or something. Yeah, sports like that can emerge and get be real big one year. But in the long run, you know, most of the sports are going to be somewhere in the middle. They're not, I'm not saying they're unpopular, but they're not the most popular. And if any are at the bottom as far as stratification and popularity, the one I played 4 years in high school, tennis, would be right at the bottom. Virtually nobody goes to watch it. If they're doing really well or not, no one's too terribly concerned. Now, that in no way a judgment on whether these sports are worthy or good or important to the people who play them or anything like that. It just, in general, how are they viewed as far as, for lack of a better word, popularity. Now, so we got different types of stratification. It could be based on your age, on your income level, on your popularity. There's stratification of ethnic groups and religious groups. Jobs, you know, which jobs are more prestigious, which are less, and so forth. Now, the caste system is one you probably haven't heard too much about, though we do got a video, I think, from the first set of videos from India about it. The caste system is extremely strict. One thing we like to think in the United States, if you're born even in the lower class of poverty or something, that theoretically you can work hard and work your way up and get to the middle class or get to the upper class. And we have a system where you can move around. In India, they have what's called the caste system that's connected to the Hindu religion. And people are literally born into different levels, and that's called a caste, and they just stay there. They're supposed to marry somebody in your caste, and you definitely don't marry up in most cases. And there are very strict rules about what caste does what. And the video I think I had from last week covered that somewhat. But they have a very strict system of that. Now they are trying to change some of that. Some of that has been true for centuries, and now they're trying to have people at the bottom get some opportunities to maybe move up and stuff like that. But it's much more difficult in a system like that. And they prohibit marriage outside of the caste. That's called exogamy. They promote endogamy, which is marriage within the caste. So if you're born in one of the caste of India, then you're supposed to just marry within that caste and definitely don't marry outside of it. We have a class system. And going back to some of Marx's terminology, he used the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. And the bourgeoisie were the owners of the means of production, generally the wealthier people, and the proletariat were just the regular workers and laborers. And some of the things that Weber described for class would be property, prestige, and power. Okay, and this goes into social stratification, wealth, power, prestige, socioeconomic status. I'll wait till one of the other days that we go live and talk about some of these theories here. But that's kind of a little overview where we're at. The test is going to be over social control and deviance and social stratification. So you got your notes. If you got questions on anything, you can unmute yourself and ask. You can put it in the chat. I'll take a look at that in a minute. Take my back to here normal. And that's pretty much it. You know, we got some pretty practical things we're doing, some stuff relating to the chapters. Let me see if I missed anything. Did I miss anything? No, we got that there. The TED Talk, good news, deviant social control, which is kind of related to these videos. I almost was going to put in there, but it would have been quite a lot for one assignment. So I broke it into a separate assignment. And then the test. So pretty much we're wrapping up 7 and 8 this week. And then we'll move on to some other things next week. Okay, any questions or comments or great thoughts? Okay, I know you guys miss being here terribly. I'm going to be in here Wednesday again, all day, maybe Thursday. But I'm working on a lot of video projects and things like that. So, well, you guys have a good day. Take care. Okay. And we'll be back on Thursday.
Mr. Rio.
Yeah. Yeah, how you doing? Everything going okay?
We're good.
You're good. Okay. Take care. Have a good day.